Paintball nerd.
Today's guest on Paintball Nerd started playing paintball in 1992. He went pro in 1999 with the Ironmen, and in 2000 went to Bob Long's Ironmen. In 2001, he helped found Team Dynasty, where he finished out his career. He's been responsible for films such as Push, Jawbreaker, cat videos, and several paintball television shows on network TV. He's currently working on the Ironkids Documentary, and he's played a big role in several paintball films. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show, Mr. Brad Maughan. What's up, Brad?
Hey, man. Hey, quick little disclaimer. I'm not responsible for Push.
Of course. You've been part of it.
On it. Very small portion. That was all Patrick.
Yeah, I might have used the incorrect word on that, but we're going to keep it because you were part of those films. We know that Brian Benini and Patrick were responsible for Push.
There you go.
You played a role.
Yeah,
you played a role.
Small role.
So what are you up to these days?
You mentioned a lot of the film work. That's I have a degree in film, my undergraduate. I think the sprinklers just turned on epically.
Beautiful.
Epic timing. Can you hear that?
Yeah.
And I'm still working in film, but I'm working on not the production side. I'm working on the post-production side and visual effects. But I work on a lot of Marvel films.
Wow. That's big ticket.
Yeah, no, it's one of the biggest.
Yeah, exactly. So how did your work on various paintball films prepare you for your career today?
Well, it's great to have a background in principal photography to kind of understand lenses, how lenses work, because in visual effects, you're basically cheating, right? You're adding a bunch of things that weren't shot physically, and you got to make them look like, I'm on the compositing side of visual effects. I'm the last person who touches a shot before you see it in a film. And it's got to look like it was shot at the time, right? So that prepared me in that way. But I went back to school and got my master's in visual effects and animation before so that prepared me even more. Yeah.
So what did you do with Push? What was your role there?
I was at World Cup 99 with Bob Long's Ironmen, and I had graduated film school in 99, right before, while I was on what was then called the SC Ironmen. That was right after the split, the Bob Long split with the Ironmen. And so Brian, and I knew Brian, I played with him. So he knew I had graduated film school, and we got knocked out of the tournament early. And so Patrick just handed me like an old Super 8 camera, really old. And it's funny to hear Patrick tell it, because he's not wrong in the fact that I kind of didn't know what I was doing. And that was the whole point. He wanted a kind of a look. But if you remember in Push, a lot of the opening sequence was a lot of this old gritty film, and I shot that stuff. So
you created the Jawbreaker series, yes?
Did the Jawbreaker series with Dan Napoli, and then before that, I did the Cap videos. Coming up as an amateur through the Cap Out of Control program. I had a relationship with Chris Hagen, and we produced those really bare bones, stripped down. Jeff from Trauma Head was doing some stuff, but I really wanted to watch pro games. And so I set up static cameras, no camera operators, and just locked down the whole field, and was able to edit those into a game. No commentating. I mean, they are bare bones. Yeah. But people loved them. People liked them, and you could really kind of see a pro team navigate a game, and you could learn. And there wasn't footage like that before that. And there's tournaments that we filmed that I didn't edit yet. So I've been thinking about going back to those, talking to Maddie a little bit, see if we could get some commentating, and spice them up.
Yeah, that'd be awesome, man.
Yeah, a lot of
people love
forgotten
those
players
games
on those videos. Yeah.
Have you seen Dale Price's YouTube channel?
I know Dale personally. I played my very, very, very first. Okay, first I'm going to tell you, no, I don't. I haven't watched his YouTube. My very first tournament was in Mesquite, Nevada. I went out there I was in film school. I went out there to do a little documentary on Eric Crandall, and the paraplegic turtles novice team. Someone didn't show. And like the total nerd that I was, even though I wasn't playing the tournament, I brought all my crap, you know, and so I got to put it on. We played and we won. So that was like a really cool taste of tournament paintball.
That's awesome. I love the turtles. And so the reason I bring up Dale Price is because his YouTube channel has tons of old tournaments, and they're all on there. So, you know, if you ever feel nostalgic, go check out his channel. So now you're working on one of the most anticipated documentaries in paintball, the Ironkids documentary. What are you doing with that?
Well, I'm providing a lot of archival footage, and I've done interviews, but that's really Dan Napoli's putting that together. So he'd be the guy to talk to about the details. But
we've talked.
You know, all right. So it's like you know, bit of a coming of age and really interesting time in paintball, and obviously in a really interesting eclectic group of people, the Ironkids. So which I was not a big fan of at the time.
Well, I mean, you played for the Ironmen and you played for Bobby's Men. Brad, tell us about your time on the Ironmen.
The Ironmen, you know, in a nutshell, it sucked. But it was if you were from the Bay Area, if you played NorCal tournament paintball as an amateur, especially, you know, Ironmen were just gods, man. Like that mid 90s lineup, you know what I mean? With Jamie and Dirk and, you know, Benini and Shane and Bob and even Dave, Marty, I mean, Clayton. I mean, you know, I know all those guys by name because those were my idols. And then we were a NorCal amateur team on the Great Western Circuit and even the MPPL B circuit where we won championships and all that stuff before I turned pro. We were a practice team for the Ironmen. And so
what team was this?
Just kind of out of control Cap Factory, which is the same. And so we would just get picked from them, you know, like Billy Wing went, Eric Roberts went, and I went, Kevin Jets went to my team. Like, you know, if you wanted a path in those days to go pro, that's kind of how it was. You weren't going to get like Dynasty did. That wasn't really heard of. You had to, you know, get your foot in the door on an established pro team. But they were It was awesome, man. It was cool to play with a number of guys from that era, that previous era before the split. You know, Benini, Shane, Marty. Very first tournament, my very first game, I got pulled out on a 3-for-1 because Marty was wiping hits. I mean, it was like, oh shit, this in the woods, you know. But I wasn't quite ready for it, you know. I was not a back guy, and that's where they put me immediately. So it was a bit of a struggle. And then ultimately, after just a few tournaments, you know, Axe, and Rich Telton,
you said it sucked.
Play my role
because they put you in the back.
It was already a season. So yeah, it would suck because it was my position. I thought I was going to learn some things, and it's like, oh shit, they're not going to teach you anything. They brought you on the team because you've already proven that, you know what I mean, you can get down and dirty and win some shit. So, and I have a mouth like a sailor. You're going to probably hear some words. Is that cool on this show?
That's great.
Okay. And so that would be my advice to young guys. If you get picked up by a pro team, like, don't expect anything. Just play hard. You know what I mean? And they're not going to take you to the side and explain things to you. You know what I mean? It's like, if they had to do that, you wouldn't be on the team. So yeah, it was just kind of like, you know what I mean? I didn't feel comfortable in the spot. I felt like I was learning something and I wasn't being taught, you know what I mean? And then the way I got cut was really shitty. Like, no one had the balls to like say it to my face. Like, I ended up going to like 2 practices and everyone else knew I was cut. It was like, geez. And then finally Billy Wing, who I've known longer than anybody in paintball outside of Eric Crandall, was like, dude, yeah, here's the situation. I'm like, you know, what the fuck, man? Like, it was a shit show over there. It was post split. People were coming in and out of the program. It was like a chicken with its head cut off. You know what I mean? And I think Rich Telford was a huge, you know, leadership role, a voice, a great back player, a champion. You know what I mean? So that was really important for them as they solidified. And of course, grabbing a guy like Oliver and like Todd Martinez, you know what I mean? Right after my little period stint with the team, produced that epic year that they had. And of course, that World Cup win. So, you know, I mean, they had to do what they had to do. And I just wasn't the guy for the job at the time. But it was a huge learning experience of like what not to do, how not to treat people.
Sure.
And how, you know what I mean? So when it was my turn on Dynasty, working with young guys, I was, you know, I certainly had my problems, but you know what I mean? It was like, okay, man, I've been in those kids' shoes. Here's how I'm going to deal with it.
So you were on Bobby's Men throughout the 2000. So how did you go?
2000.
How did it transpire? Like, you're on Bobby's Men, and then they're like, you know, the Ironkids are like, let's form Dynasty. Like, how did you become a founding member?
So in 2000, there's a couple things I want to say about that time, but there, you know, in '99 at World Cup with Bob, that team was a mess. Like, Rich had just left. It was a lot of, you know, people were leaving in the off season. It was just another shit show. And so over that off season, it got kind of like reconstituted, but it wasn't great. Bob was really, really, really focused on that first generation Intimidator and less about putting 10, 11 dudes on the field that could get it done. But I went out to a Bob Long practice because I'm from the Bay Area, and it was kind of, you know, it was happening and they needed guys. And I crushed it, man. I was so pissed about the SC Ironmen thing, and I was just smoking nerds. And Rich Telford, who I had known a roundabout way, not really personally, but I knew he had basically taken my spot, and he knew, you know, where I had come from, you know, and he was from Constant Pursuit and Ironman 2, and of course they won the championship with Bob in '98. But he came out to me in the parking lot and he said, dude, honestly, I don't understand why they cut you. You're the best player out here. You know what I mean? And I was like, that was a huge thing for me. You know what I mean? Just that brief conversation to have a veteran like Rich Telford say that, like, really gave me a lot of confidence. And then going into LA Open in 2001, where we took second place, Bob Long's Ironman, even with the roster that we had, which had some stellar dudes on it. Ron Nelson, Dalton Hanson, Eric Felix, Kevin Jones, Zach Long. You know, I don't think Zach Long gets enough credit. He was an amazing player. And of course, Bob was there. And Ironman ref that tournament. They ref the first tournament back in that era. So they watched me fucking shit on teams and take second place. And those guys came up to me. Some of the young guys, but even the old guys that I really respected were like, dude, you fucking, like, what the fuck? You know what I mean? Like, so it was like, after that moment, I was like, I've washed my slate clean of the SC Ironman. I'm done with that. I got the respect. You know what I mean? I'm not the shitty player they cut 6 months ago. You know what I mean? It was like, okay, cool. It was cool to just I'm moving on. And so, like I said, with the whole Intimidator thing, like, we struggled that year. After that second place, it was just a decline. And Chris Hagen called me because we had a long-standing relationship with me being on Out of Control, Cat Factory team. He said, hey, man, I need a leader over here. I just got a bunch of kids. I'm not the guy. I'm trying to run a business. I already know I'm going to get picked apart again. I'm going to lose it all if I don't take them all pro right now. And he said, I want you to come back, wrap up this Amateur A championship. And so I came back for World Cup in 2000, went back to Amateur A. And I was like, you better fucking go pro, man. I'm not going back to amateur. You know, Lockout had this statement that they made on an interview. I think it was a Paint magazine. They said, we'd rather be the last place pro team than the first place amateur team. And that's how I felt about it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was like, I am not going back to amateur. You're going to guarantee me we're going pro next year. He's like, dude, signed in blood, you guys will go pro next year. So I come back and do the World Cup 2000 with Cap Factory team, which was all the Iron Kids, for the most part, except for Oliver, and he was on the Ironmen. And we won. We didn't win. We got to the finals, wrapped up the series championship, and then it really hit the fan, man. Chuck Hench was on the team. Chuck Hench was on World Cup event. He was a sponsor. He was a VP at JT USA, and he just lost 2 major pro teams, the Ironmen and Aftershock. After 2000 in the off season, switched over to full soft and hard goods over at Dye.
Yeah.
And so all of a sudden this money shows up in the sponsorship program. All they really had was Avalanche. And I know Lockout was a team, but I think they may have got signed that year as well. I can't totally remember, but Avalanche was already a JT team. So they moved up to the number 1 slot, and there was some money left over. So Chuck made a play on the group, and through that situation ended up getting Cap Factory and then turning pro with Dynasty, making a pro team called Dynasty.
Wow. So
Chris Hagen's just gotten the shit end of the deal for years. But who knows? We may not be the Dynasty that we're talking about, or Dynasty at all, had we stayed with Chris. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It is what it is. The things shook out the way they shook out, and to be a part of what Dynasty represents is, you know what I mean? Huge, a huge part of my identity to a certain extent. And you're only gonna get a couple accomplishments in your life, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so that's one of them. That's like, to win everything that I won, all that stuff. Like, there are guys who dedicated their lives to pro paintball and never win an event. You know what I mean?
Yeah, true.
So it's crazy, especially back then. But maybe more so now, because those kids are. Yeah. With that was funny. I got cut from Dynasty after 2002, between 2002 2003, and that was a really fun phone call. I really gave it to Alex. I made it as uncomfortable as possible. And
how?
And but I made my own bed, man. I was trying to do video work between games at tournaments. I was running away from the team, talking to my camera crews and stuff, and it's like, then I declined to go to European events anymore. You know what I mean? It was like, okay. But Alex, we're on this phone call, and Alex says, "Listen, man, you're 29 years old. You're going to be 30 before the first event." He's like, "You're too old to play." He's like, you know what I mean? You should retire. And he's like, "If you ever catch me playing paintball at 30 or beyond, I want you to kick me in the nuts." So,
oh man, he deserves like 10 kicks in the nuts.
He's got his kids. I think Margaret's going to be okay with it. So yeah, as soon as he retires, I've been working in the gym on a bag, and we're gonna rock it here. He might go for another 5 years, so I might get 15 kicks
easily.
Yeah, easily. So then I joined Miami Effect for about a day. Was working with Travis and Brian Fowl, and that was what is now known as Infamous. And there was the big X Ball push, and there was the roster inflation on that side. And then I got the job to do the Fox shows, and I had to pull out. So then I got the phone call from Chris Lasoya, all pissed off. So yeah, that moment in time was a little rocky, a lot of fucks given, a lot of fucks taken. And then I just rejoined Dynasty. So and like the X Ball side, not the 7. I did the X Ball side, but yeah, and then did like the first iteration of Entourages, and then went back to the pro team in 2005, and in 2006 you had to, in the MPPL, you had to lock your rosters. You know what I mean? You needed to get players who are willing to get locked to a team and then not likely play, right? And so in 2005, Alex is like, all right, I want you to do this. You're like 32 now. You're really too old to play. You're probably getting a lot of spins. So, just be there for us. We know you can get the job done if something happens. And 2006 rolls by, the same situation. This says you're 30 now. You definitely cannot play. You're probably going to be in a wheelchair soon. You're too old. But do this for us. Get locked to the roster and play this out. So, to wrap up my career with those 2 championships and not really have played a game, but my name was in the hat, and I checked those off. Those are that's part of my resume as a 5-time world champ. So
yeah, you had an amazing career, and Brad, what would you say over the past several years, over 25 years in pro paintball? What memory really stands out for you?
Oh man, so there's so many. It's all kind of just the whole experience is one. You know what I mean? I can see my own trajectory in a 2-minute thought. You know what I mean? It's like it's really hard, but those first 2 years on Dynasty were something really special. It was a lot of camaraderie, and it was just a really cool experience to travel and win and really upset the order. There was an old boys club. They hated us, and they did everything they could to destroy us. And, we just always came out on top. Winning World Cup 2001 was my first pro win. I'd gotten close. I'd taken second place with both the SC Ironmen and Bob Long's Ironman, which is, first loser. So getting the win, even under those conditions, which is very controversial. I don't know if you recall the game, but it was a really fun game. It was a really hard game. And when the subject's brought up, I just say, hey man, we shot 10 Aftershock players and pulled their flag in the final game of World Cup at their height. You know what I mean? It was like, if that's not a win, then what is? So
yeah.
But yeah, that went down, and I was the guy who knew the rule book. You know what I mean? I was out on the field picking up my pods going, there's something not right about this. And I was filming on Sunday Drivers for Patrick, and I had filmed the exact same thing had happened between Avalanche and All-Americans in Tennessee and the year before. And so we used to have to chrono off the field, and if you chronoed hot, it's a 1-for-1. And Frank Connell of the All-Americans, he's the last guy on the field. He chronos off hot, and they award a 12-point negative to Avalanche. And so it was a really obscure rule, but I had seen it in practice, and I'm on the field, and Chuck's like, hey man, you did such a great job. There was a position and a term that's no longer used. It was called field captain. And that's what I was in the first year of Dynasty, was this guy who had just come from pro experience, bringing up these kids. Not, I was going to deal with personnel and things of that nature. Chuck was the captain. Alex was like the heart of the team, and and I was the field captain. So I'm on and Chuck's saying, "Hey man, you did such a great job. We took second place here. We took these thirds in Europe. It was really a phenomenal year for a rookie pro team." And I'm like, dude, we just won. Like, it was just all flooding into me, like this, the nuance and the technical, the rule book and whatnot. And Chuck just starts running off the field and stops the scorecard before it's posted. And there's an interim window where changes can happen. If it had gotten there and posted, we would have took second place to Aftershock.
Yeah.
And it was just, so to be there, to be one of the last guys on the field, to make the move that caused the unfair 1-for-1, to pull the flag, to know the rule book, to get Chuck to go and change it, you know what I mean? And then walk home with the trophy. Like, that was a huge moment for me. That, you know what I mean?
That's awesome, man. Who would you say is your favorite?
But then we won. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, who's been your favorite teammate over the years?
Oh man, I've known the kids for so long. Since the first day they went to Mare Island, I was the field manager there. So like when those dudes showed up to play paintball, some of them for their first time, that's there I was, reffing the games, running it with Eric Crandall. So I've known those guys for a really long time. I consider all of them my best friends. We have unique relationships. Talk to them, in some way, shape, or form, on fairly regular. So it's really hard to just pick one. Skinny K was my roommate on Dynasty, so I love him to death. BC was a really special guy. I mean, I've known Angel Fergoza longer than I've known the kids. So
what's he up to?
It's a mystery, man. I don't know a whole lot about it. Alex knows more than I do, but I don't even want to speculate. But it could
I've
be
been trying
some
to get
kind of
him
like
on. I have his phone number, but yeah, he's elusive.
You got more than me. I heard some stuff, man. I think he might be up in the hills in some cult or something. I don't know. That's
interesting.
Don't take that as any kind of fact.
Naturally.
But I think maybe he's on the spiritual journey.
Hey, that usually turns out pretty well for the Iron Kids, right? Going on spiritual journeys.
Well, Oliver's, been around the moon a couple times, so yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of Oliver, who do you think is the greatest paintball player of all time?
Yeah, that's a hard one. That's so many people have had their era of the game to perform well, you got like the Malacheskis, and you got John Richardson, and at different eras and different times, and then Oliver undoubtedly, but then you have Ryan on this run. It's like, man, that's an argument. And then I still keep up on paintball. I still have a Go Sports account, so I watch the tournaments, and honestly, no one gets the snake done like Angel Fergoza did. Not even to this day do they do it the way he did it. So it's really hard. It's hard.
Yeah,
but
it's positional, right? And like you said, there's eras involved.
Yep.
But the term GOAT gets thrown around too freely. I feel like there's a lot of goats in paintball. Say everyone's the GOAT, no one's the GOAT.
But you just can't, it's hard to say one person. You have different positions and responsibilities and longevity. I mean, Ryan is killing it right now. You know what I mean?
I think he's the GOAT.
At his age, the team, the success, the performance, it's hard, man.
I mean, you can make arguments, but Ryan is the GOAT.
I mean, like I said, it's really hard. I can't argue it. Oliver's definitely had the mantle. You know what I mean? And I'll tell you, before Oliver came back, there was probably a time on Dynasty where maybe like Brian Cole was one of our best players. You know what I mean? It's a very divisive topic.
Yeah, and you first have to determine what the criteria is. You have to set the clear criteria, and then you can actually make a decision on it. Yeah. And that's why people vary in their opinions of who the GOAT is, and say that there's multiple GOATs, because you could say there's a GOAT in the snake, there's a GOAT in the back center, there's a GOAT here and there. So, but I think, throughout history, if you were to put one person against everyone else, I think that more than likely Ryan's going to beat everyone.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at a stat sheet, I don't think you're wrong.
Yeah. Brad, what's your most cherished paintball item?
I got a couple. See how much of this can be seen. This is a 2000 championship ring, Dynasty.
That's beautiful.
So it's got, my name on it and the logo and the year. It's a 7-man thing. This was really cool. We didn't get these.
That's awesome.
In 2002, and when we won a lot of stuff. Alex sent me this Hormesis headband, which according to Oliver is the very first headband that was embroidered with a signature. That was the model, named after the model. So this is my Beastman, which was my nickname, edition with the embroidered autograph. So it's probably a one of one, but if you're a Hormesis fan,
hasn't
it's the
been
first
worn.
time they ever did that. and it never will be worn. I was just at headquarters a few weeks ago visiting Yosh, so I went through like the old JT days. I was yanking stuff off the shelves. So I came home with a few headbands, a bunch of shirts, goggles, packs. You know, they take care of me. They send me stuff. But this might be interesting to a lot of people.
Ooh,
this
take off the shroud.
There's an autococker. This is an autococker that I used in my amateur and even pro career. But this is a STO prototype. This was one of the very, very first autocockers ever produced with a center feed. It's considerably shorter than the production model. But P-Block, Billy Wing cut this beaver tail for this Armson sight.
Of course he did.
And yeah.
Does it work?
And you know, it might need a little love. It's never quite worked the same, but Billy was an autococker master, Billy Wing, and so to keep this thing up and running was really his doing. And I never really understood how these things functioned, and was glad to move to the Angel. This die boomstick barrel was given to me by the Ironmen when I joined the team, and it's probably can't be seen, but there's a Dremel tool. It's like 691 Brad SC Ironmen that Matt Marshall did on all the team barrels. So that kind of lives on this gun. Haven't used it in a long time. But yeah, it's a couple people know about it that are autococker fans. They're like, oh shit, like that's a prototype. That's not even a, you know.
No serial number.
No, there is a serial number.
Oh.
Here.
Yeah. Nice.
But I think this was a Jeff Orr project. I don't think Bud was a big fan of center feed, and came my way in a roundabout way. Here's my first pro jersey with the SC Ironmen.
That's awesome.
But probably even more special is this, my amateur jersey, my first amateur jersey with Out of Control Cap Factory, which is a cotton Rave 5 JT jersey with my number. Number 7 is my number.
Oh, okay. All right. A lot of people claim it.
So when we joined the Ironman, I think Shane had it, and that was kind of like a no-go, right? But when I came back to Cap and we formed Dynasty, we were picking numbers, and I'm like, yeah, number 7, right? And Alex was like, no way, that's my number. So he starts throwing a fit. I start throwing a fit, and it's like, well, okay, we'll take it to a team vote. So he's getting his people to support him. I'm looking for somebody. There's a landslide win. Alex wins number 7, which is my number. And they're like, so what's your number going to be? And I'm really pissed off at the time, right? So there was a commercial going around for Denny's Diner. They were selling some kind of Grand Slam breakfast for $1.99, and they had a whole music thing. $1.99, are you out of your mind? And I was so pissed off, and I was so out of my mind that my number became $1.99.
I love it.
Yeah, there
wasn't a lot of 3-digit numbers.
No, not at that time.
Now they're very prevalent.
I kind of, because I was in the middle of a move, I just pulled a bunch of jerseys off the top of this box. This is kind of special. It's my roommate, Skinny Kevin. This is a 2001 jersey.
I asked Skinny where all his jerseys are at. He said he doesn't know. They're just distributed amongst the masses. And you have one. There it is.
Well, if I gave this back to him, I wouldn't be shocked if it ended up in a trash can 2 weeks later. So he's not going to get it back.
Yeah.
Let's see. Here's an Angel Fergosa jersey.
Whoo! Ghetto Superstar.
187. Angel lived in just the worst area of Vallejo. He was not on a path forward. And a guy named Jeff Scroggins, who's a paintball player, local Bay Area guy, brought him out to start reffing, and so I got to know him really, really well. So it's special to have his jersey.
Yeah.
And probably we were the last NorCal holdouts. Most of them had moved to California. And so I'd go to his neighborhood to pick him up, and it was like burned out cars. It was like when he says he was the ghetto superstar, like that's not, you know what I mean? That's real.
Gunshots are going off as you're pulling up.
Right. So yeah, special things. You know, I don't know. I got a bunch of memories, a bunch of little things.
Yeah.
This is all I could really grab at the last minute. Here,
it was great, Brad. I appreciate you sharing that with us.
All right.
Brad, what advice would you give to a young guy, or any age, I suppose, young player coming up that wants to reach the top of paintball? Like, what advice is there?
Well, first thing is you got to live in a market where a pro team exists, right? Like, and a lot of people did move to San Diego when that was Southern California was a bit of a hotbed. A lot of East Coast guys. If you're not there, if you're not exposed to them, if you're not playing them, pickup games or your amateur team practicing, like, you know what I mean? So what I'm saying is you got to put yourself in a position to have a pathway to pro. And if you live in the middle of nowhere, it ain't going to happen.
Yeah.
And then you just got to love the game, man. There's no amount of anything that's going to make up for actual playing experience. You know what I mean? You can't play a video game. It's like, you got to get out there and, do the work. And then what I tell some of the new guys when I get a chance that come on Dynasty is like, you have to own it. You have to take 1/10 ownership of that jersey, that logo. You know what I mean? It's like, and if you don't, you're just borrowing it and someone else is going to take it. Like, you got to own it. You know what I mean? And I learned that on the Ironman. I did not own my ownership in the team as a player on the field. You know what I mean? And so if you don't think about it that way, you're going to lose it.
That's powerful. I love
you
that.
Just got to play hard, man. You just got to play. You got to grind.
Yeah. And you can't grind unless you love it, right? Like, it's not possible.
Right. I just don't. Yeah. It's got to be those ingredients in that order, or it ain't going to happen. But it doesn't. People can put in the effort, the time, and the love and still not achieve what they want out of the game. Only one team can win. And there's only a handful of events. You know what I mean? It's like the cards are stacked against you, and we're all lucky to come out with a ring or a medallion or a trophy. You know what I mean? For the people that put in the time and the effort. So, and there's a lot of deserving people that just, the chemistry just isn't there at that tournament at that moment to get the job done. But our MVPs. It's just a brutal game.
It's extremely difficult. Like, I don't think people understand how, like, people who don't play paintball, for example, I don't think they understand how difficult it is to be a professional paintball player and win a championship. Like,
it's incredibly difficult.
Yeah.
The consistency back in my era, like even pre-era, it was like, dude, if you were a pro team that won an event, you were one of the best.
Yeah.
Wasn't no series championship, nothing. If you were a finals team like twice, dude, you were and there's some kind of magic, man. When a pro team wins its first pro tournament, something happens, man. It's trouble. It's trouble for the league when you let another pro team who's not had that taste get a piece. It's like, oh man, you know what I mean? And
well, you know what happens is the belief system gets reinforced. Right. Now the belief is like, I am a champion, I can win. And the belief system strengthens the action, right? The action that they take to get to the top, and the action practice, whatever drills, playing paintball all the time, reinforces the results. The results get even better. And then the results reinforce the belief system. It's the bar system. Believe, action, results, believe, action, results. So that's what happens when you're a pro and you win your first event. It's like, I made it and I can do this. I'm someone,
Right. Yeah, it's huge. I mean, once we won World Cup 2001, we immediately won 2002. crushed that tournament, putting all of that off season, criticism of how we won World Cup to bed. You know what I mean? And then we went on to win in Europe. I think one of my favorite tournaments was Portugal 2002. We won every single game. That hadn't even been done yet, in that format, that kind of round robin you know what I mean? So it's like we were just on fire, winning Triple Crowns the season. And we did not win World Cup in 2002, which, I can take some responsibility for. But we won the championship and series championship, which I don't even think is a thing now, which is odd to me.
A series champion? Yeah, sure, it's a thing.
Is there? Is it?
Yeah, you can win the.
You just like qualify. Okay.
Yeah. Dynasty has 2 of them already. They're going for 3.
Send it. I'm all about it, man. I hope they win every tournament and every game.
Yeah,
I don't care how boring it gets. That's my team.
Yeah, people say, like, when you reach the top, everyone wants to see you kind of fall. But I don't feel that way about Dynasty. I just want to see them tear through forever.
It's an interesting thing from my perspective is like, and very few people can make a claim to this, but it's like, I made that. That's my jersey.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I was a founding member. I was a plank owner, and we willed it to be what it is with the wins, the way it went down. And by the time the majority of my time was split from the team, by 2003, it was like, that was what solidified the legacy, the work that happens. It's like, that's mine. You know what I mean? So I used to go to Dynasty practices for years into my 40s. I'm 50 now. And I would just put it on the young guys. It was like, if you're going to wear my jersey, you're going to have to earn it.
Earn it.
You know what I mean? And I've made them all cry. All of them cried.
I love it.
That old guy.
Who's the guy with the beard sticking out of the bottom of his goggles?
Screaming.
Oh, man.
Brad became Beast Man for a reason. But yes.
You are the Beast Man. What are you most thankful for that paintball's given you?
Oh, it's the friendships in the end. The trophies and the games and the moments all kind of just fade. But I talk to the guys all the time. You know what I mean? I just went out and stayed with Yosh for a weekend for his daughter's first birthday, and it's like those people are important to me. Including guys like Eric Crandall and who I've known probably the longest of anybody in paintball, and Skinny K and just the relationships, man. In the end, that's what it is.
Yeah.
So
beautiful.
That's all you can take with you.
Totally.
Can't take anything else.
Well, Brad, thank you so much for your time here today. Is there anything that you want to part with for the paintball community?
Part with, it's, we were always kind of like, during my era, we were always at this edge of breaking through, you know what I mean? And maybe the sport just isn't that, gonna work that way, shooting sport, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But, I see a lot of changes happening and a lot of attempts, and I really hope the game is in people's hands with the right attitudes, to push it forward and not stagnate, whatever that is. But so my hope is that paintball continues to be, as record numbers, you know what I mean, that kind of a thing. It's a really fun game. No one's gonna get rich, so don't not take opportunities to educate yourself or go to school. You know what I mean? You can put off a lot of things when you're dedicated to the game like that. And some of that stuff I regret, but I've been able to make up for it since I've been out of the game. You don't go to a family vacation. You know what I mean? It's like, I'm going to make that practice. And it's like, fuck, I've gone to that vacation. It's just a practice, that kind of stuff. So But yeah, man, I'm stoked that you're doing this and talking to the old guys. Maybe some of these stories will live on.
I hope so, man. I appreciate you.
I appreciate you, man.